Hello student, today's topic is female reproductive system. Female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviduct, uterus, vagina, external genitalia, a pair of vestibular glands and a pair of mammary glands. In this, first point is ovary. Ovary is a primary sex organ and it produces ovum by oogenesis and some hormones like estrogen, progesterone, relaxin, activin and inhibin. Ovaries are two in number. They are round and solid structure. These are present in an abdominal cavity just below the kidney and they are held together by ligament attached to uterus and abdominal cavity. Ovary is a solid round structure. It is approximately 3 cm in length, 1.5 cm in breadth and 1 cm in thickness. Now about structure of ovary. Ovary has main two regions. The outermost part is known as cortex, which is externally lined by germinal epithelium, while the inner part of the ovary is known as medulla. Medulla has stroma, blood vessels, lymph vessels and many nerve fibers. Before birth, female has 2 million of primordial follicles. When it takes birth, it has only 1 million of primordial follicles, and when it attains maturity at the time of puberty, she has only 40,000 primordial follicles. This huge decrease in a primordial follicle up to the puberty is due to the large scale destruction of follicle, and this is known as atresia. After attaining puberty or sexual maturity, females start releasing ovum after every 28 days. This process of releasing ovum is known as menstrual cycle and it lasts for 5 days. At the time of menstrual cycle, only one ovum is produced by only one of the two ovaries. In this way, both the ovaries are produce ovum alternatively on each menstrual cycle. The onset or starting of first menstrual cycle normally at the age of 13 years, and this stage is known as menarche. This is the starting of reproductive age in female. It lasts up to the 32 years. In this reproductive age, female will produce maximum 416 eggs. And at the age of 45 to 55, in female, menstrual cycle stops. This stopping of menstrual cycle at the age of 45 to 55 is known as menopause, where female unable to produce ovum. In this way, after puberty, female life cycle is divided into menarche, reproductive age and menopause. About ovarian histology. Mature female will produce ovum after every 28 days and this is known as menstrual cycle. Due to this, cyclic changes in ovary takes place. These cyclic changes are nothing but the development of primordial follicle to primary follicle, secondary and Graafian follicle. In this neighboring diagram, we can see that at the early stages, primordial follicles are there, which has primary oocyte with single layer of follicular cells. These develop into primary follicle, which has primary oocyte with multi-layered follicular cell, and these layers are known as theca. Later on, primary follicle will develop into secondary follicle. Secondary follicle has primary oocyte with multi-layered follicular cell. This multi-layer structure is known as granulosa, which produce estrogen. Later on, secondary follicle will develop into a mature follicle. This mature follicle is known as Graafian follicle, which contain secondary oocyte with more follicular cell, and these cells produce more quantity of estrogen. As the Graafian follicle matures, it moves toward the surface of the ovary and finally releases the ovum. This process is known as ovulation. Here, Graafian follicle turns into the structure called carpus luteum and later on it becomes carpus albicans. Here the structure of Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle is nothing but the mature ovarian follicle. This Graafian follicle contains eccentric secondary oocyte. Eccentric position means near to the center but not at the center position. So secondary oocyte is present at the eccentric position in Graafian follicle. This Graafian follicle has two layers, theca externa which is present at the outer side and theca interna which is present inner side of the theca externa. At the inner side of the theca interna, granulosa cells are present and granulosa cells are secretory in function. They secrete hormone called estrogen. Granulosa cells form the layers over the secondary oocyte and this layer is known as corona radiata. The cavity which is present between the secondary oocyte and membrane granulosa is known as antrum. This antrum cavity is filled with a fluid called liquor folliculi. Now we are going to study about the structure of oviduct. Oviduct is also known as fallopian tube or uterine tube. Oviduct is a pair of muscular duct which has a function to carry ovum from ovary to the uterus. Each oviduct is 10 to 12 cm in length. Its one end is present near the ovary while other end open into the uterus. Oviduct is divided into three parts: infundibulum, ampulla and isthmus. Isthmus is also known as carnua. Infundibulum is the proximal part of the oviduct and it has opening called as ostium. Ostium is surrounded by finger-like projection called fimbriae. Ostium receives the ovulated egg from the ovary and carries it to the uterus. Second part of the oviduct is ampulla. Ampulla is the middle long part of the oviduct. In the ampulla, fertilization takes place. This is the most important point. Fertilization takes place in ampulla of the oviduct. The distal narrow part of the oviduct is known as isthmus or carnua. Isthmus opens into the uterus. Both the oviducts are open into a single structure called as uterus. Uterus is also known as mother's womb. Uterus is approximately 7.5 cm in length, 5 cm in breadth and 2.5 cm in thickness. Uterus is a hollow muscular structure located just behind the urinary bladder. Here, the uterus is divided into three regions: fundus, body and cervix. Fundus is a dome-shaped upper part of the uterus. Mostly here, implantation of the embryo takes place. Middle part of the uterus is called as body and next to the body, the cervix region is present. It is a narrow neck-like structure approximately 2.5 cm in length. Cervix extends till the vagina. The wall of uterus consists of three layers. Outermost is perimetrium, middle is myometrium which is made up of smooth muscles, and inner layer is known as endometrium which is made up of striated epithelium, and it is highly supplied with blood vessels and uterine glands. Endometrium provides nourishment to the developing fetus. Next part is vagina. Vagina is the female copulatory organ which is about 7 to 9 cm in length. It lies between cervix and vestibule. If we see the wall of vagina which is made up of three layers, the inner mucosal layer, middle muscular layer and the outermost is adventitial layer. Mucosal layer stores glycogen. Vagina leads into vaginal orifice, which is the opening of vagina into the vestibule. This vaginal orifice is covered by the fold of mucous membrane known as hymen. Vagina acts as a passage for menstrual flow as well as birth canal during pasteurization.